As we start to look at how to annotate the documents and how to construct an argument, I want to introduce you to your new best friend. That is the Guatemala paper. There's a long storied mythology behind this paper and where it came from. All we know is some great person in the great country of Guatemala bestowed it upon us sometime around 2009, 2010. But it's here and it's going to help us out so much. Basically, what the Guatemala paper is an outline, and I'm going to have a link to it down here in the description. And it's an outline to help us organize our paper. I know it looks really wild and funky, but basically where we want to be by the time it comes for the actual AP exam, we want to be in a place where we can kind of construct the Guatemala paper in our head. It asks you for what your thesis statement's going to be, what your group's going to be, and all that good stuff. So we're going to be talking about the argument that we're going to make today, how our essay is going to look. But it's really smart to check out the Guatemala paper as it kind of walks you through it. Basically, if I can say anything about this seminar today, it's kind of a verbal and audio-visual version of the Guatemala paper. So when we talk about annotating the documents, all we're really talking about is writing on them, because this is a process where we're going to have to keep shuffling papers around, coming back and forth. I'm trying to do this electronically, but of course you're just going to have papers on your desk. So we want to be able to go back and forth and write on the document, so we can very quickly look at this and say, well, yes, this document's saying this and this document's saying that. So it's really important to use those first 10 minutes when you get the DBQ to sit down and go through. And as I walk you through it, I'm going to show you how I'm going to construct my argument as I go, as I'm annotating. I've not seen this DBQ. So this will be a fresh thing for me, and we'll just go through it. So let's start checking it out, and I'm going to be typing around here so you can see kind of my mindset. Okay, one thing I'm really going to do is I'm going to underline what it's asking me to do, and it's evaluate the extent to which communist movements, let me get up here. Aha. Oh, we've broken the internet. There we go. Communist movements affected women's struggles for rights in the 20th century. So, when I'm looking at this document, the first thing I'm going to look at is what I need to know. And one thing I see right off is that this is a Russian, and it's a communist revolutionary. I promise you, I do not need to know Alexandra Kollontais' name. The Bolshevik government, I know the Bolsheviks are who took over after World War I and ran Russia, and this is 1926. So it's a member of the Bolshevik government, and it's their autobiography. So we're talking about Russia. Let's see what we got here. 1905, at the end of the so-called First Revolution in Russia broke out after the famous Bloody Sunday, I'd already acquired a reputation in the field of economic social literature. And in those stirring times, when all energies were utilized in the storm of revolt, it turned out that I had become popular as an orator. Yet in the period, I realized for the first time how little our party concerned itself with the fate of women, of the working class, and how meager was its interest in women's liberation. To be sure, a very strong bourgeois women's movement was already in existence in Russia, but my Marxist outlook pointed out to me with overwhelming clarity that women's liberation could take place only as the result of a new social order and a different economic system. I had above all set myself the task of winning over women workers in Russia to socialism, and at the same time of working for the liberation of women for her equality of rights. So I see Alexandra, so this is a woman speaking, okay, she's Russian, she's frustrated with communism helping women in Russia. she needs a new social order, and she's bourgeois, which, no, gee, I spelled that right. She's bourgeois, which is middle class. Okay, so this kind of tells me what this document is, and I'm already starting to see that one of my groups might be that they didn't really help women's rights movements, that even though they were pushing for, and by they I mean communist movements, even though they're pushing for equality, maybe women aren't getting this. So let's go to the next one. Wow, this looks like another Russian name too. We got a Soviet official in the women's department of the Bolshevik Committee. Okay. Marija. I'm going to say that's probably a female. Let's see what it says here. It is incompatible for a member of the party to be in the party and Komsomol, which is a Soviet organization for young people, if his wife, sister, or mother is veiled, Central Asian Muslim women. It is necessary to demand every communist the fulfillment of this directive, and to that communist who resists, who do not want to carry out this party directive, who wants to preserve the remnants of feudal relations and seclusions, to that communist and Komsomol member, we say there is no place for you in the party or the Komsomol. All right, so what I'm taking out of this is Russian woman is running. Oh, come on, there's not 3 S's in Russian. Russian woman, she's speaking for, well, let's not say Russian, let's say USSR, because we see she's in Uzbekistan. Speaking for a committee to stop veiling. Anti-veiling is, for some people, women's rights, right? This also reminds me of currently in Europe, anti-veiling and veiling in Mesopotamia, where women were viewed as protected by husbands if veiled. Okay, why am I putting all this random crap in here? Well, this is outside information that I can bring in and talk about how women were being treated in society as far back to Mesopotamia, or as recently, I remember hearing about the burkinis in France, that Muslim women would basically wear bodysuits to swim, and some French officials thought they were liberating these women for making them not, banning those burkinis. And so kind of this push of society and women's rights and covering yourselves. So that's what I'm getting out of there. And here it looks like they're trying to push forward. So we would say pushing for women equality. And I'll put veiling there. That's what I'm seeing. Okay, for document 3, this is North Vietnam. Of course, we know that's the communist Vietnam. 1960, and it's their constitution. All right, so here's another thing I've noticed too. This is an official. No, it looks like this is just a quote, but it's coming from an official government person. Here's an official government person. This is the Constitution, so it can't get more officialer. Women of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam enjoy equal rights with men in all spheres of political, economic, cultural, social, domestic life. For equal work, women enjoy equal pay. Wow. The state ensures that women workers and office employees have fully paid periods of leave before and after childbirth. The state protects mother and child and ensures the development of maternity hospitals. Okay, so this is government. This is Vietnam, 60s. Constitutional. Whoa, hello. Constitutional equal pay. Maternity leave. It's not in the U.S. today. I can talk about the ERA that I learned about in GoPo. This is really good stuff. So here it's full support. Vietnam, full support. Very interesting. Okay, we go down to document 4. This is a study published by the National Science Foundation from Washington, D.C. in 1961. Percentage of women among research and professional personnel in the Soviet Union. Okay, so this is the percentage of women that are working as research or professionals between 1947 and 1959. So as we go across here, we see that there's not really much of a change for women with doctoral degrees or professors, a slight increase for associate professors, a slight decrease for research associates, a slight increase for junior research associates, and a slight increase. Okay, so we say here, Russia shows slight increase of research professionals for women, but we need to pay attention here too that it is 47 to 59. Okay, so the percentage of women among, okay, so 30% of PhD holders are women, which for me is pretty good in the 50s. But we see no real increase. And then something that's really important here is who wrote it. And as we can, hey there. Well, I can't highlight it, but I can see it's from the US. And I really need to question the author because of Cold War. The U.S. and USSR are at odds, and it looks like this. I would imagine that the reason they're trying to say this is that it's not really helping women at all. And why would the United States National Science Foundation, why would they want to push this? Well, I could say they could probably push it because they're saying, look, women, this is not helping you. All right, so that's document 4. We'll look at 5, 6, and 7 here in just a moment.